Bonjour, allô, agent provocateur, Jocelyn, ici. Okay, I'll stop doing that now. So, this one's gonna be fun, because I'm declaring a war. But first, I will start with tolerance. Tolerance, what is it? Well, it's a good thing. I like it. I mean, I wouldn't be me if I didn't believe in tolerance. I advocate tolerance for all kinds of people. Most especially and most vociferously for LGBT plus people, but yeah, I mean, everyone has the right to exist. And tolerance is the way forward. Right? Well, how far can it go? Well, some people, and I agree, argue that the only thing that society cannot tolerate is intolerance. Otherwise, society breaks down. And it's kind of easy to see when it comes to the extremes. So, promoting tolerance and understanding and awareness and lots of lovely liberal ideas for people on the basis of, being LGBT plus or being disabled or people of color or whatever, it's and not being tolerant and actively stopping people from spreading views who are neo-Nazis, who are, by definition, intolerant. So being intolerant of the intolerance, good, sorted, fine. Yeah, society's problems all solved. Not quite. Because what do you do about the spectrum of characteristics and ideals in between the extremes? The things like political affiliation or religion. It is impractical and impossible to stop people talking or governing who have right-wing conservative ideals because that's what they think is correct and best. Or at least one hopes that that's the reason they have those views. But it's also impeding their free speech. Being a leftist means not forcing others to have your viewpoint, liberal though it may be, because forcing others is not liberal itself, no matter how correct that viewpoint may be. And things like political beliefs can and should change over time, because they adapt to new input of information. And I mean, I've heard quite a bit lately about people who go through a libertarian phase. Everyone seems to have a phase. And that's just a shifting viewpoint of the world based on their available data and evidence and information. And yes, those things do also depend on issue by issue where someone's stance is. So, for example, one person can hold the view that they are anti-abortion, but also pro-marijuana legalization. One of those is kind of right-wing and one of those is kind of left-wing. So it brings up the issue of how far free speech can go and how the speech that infringes on the rights of others isn't acceptable, despite quote-unquote freedom of speech. And the concept of freedom here really doesn't exist because others could be actively hurt. So again, with the Nazi analogy, saying anti-Semitic stuff is, it's not acceptable because there are a group of people who will get hurt by that. Like actually physically hurt and maimed and killed by that kind of thing being allowed to spread and propagate unchecked. So if anti-Semitic speech doesn't count as free speech, how is it free? Yeah. Someone else is going to have to answer that one because I can't, and I'm not here to. Today, my main point is religion. I'm using the same model of tolerance here, just, as the example. But certain religions preach intolerance towards others in minority groups. So how can they be tolerated in a functioning society? Some people in the same religion will interpret the words in their holy texts two different ways. So the Bible is the one I'm going to go to because that's the one I'm most familiar with. You've got some people who advocate the love thy neighbour, thou shalt not kill kinds of, interpretations. And there are others who, maybe not so much nowadays, but definitely in the past, were more along the lines of stone the gays and thou shalt not suffer a witch to live and all of those kinds of interpretations. And there are, of course, some people who still are very anti-gay, and that's their source. So the answer given to that is usually that it's best to tolerate the religious person as an individual, but not the harmful effects of the religion itself. Does that sound familiar? Well, it's not the best answer and it's not the best policy because hate the sin, love the sinner is patronizing and solves nothing. Religions don't exist by themselves. They exist because people actively practice them. Those people are, wrongly or rightly, continuing traditions and beliefs in certain values. So for example, you've got the nice Christian who looks like your grandma and goes to church and accepts gay people and is the live and let live sort. But then you've also got the bad Christian, the Pastor Andersons of the world. The ones who believe that, and I quote, homos should be put to death. But of course, those people are also hypocrites. They don't think for themselves, and they don't follow the other rules in the Bible, like the shaving of the beards and the hair and stuff. Because that's not allowed. But they do that. So we'll take religion away from this scenario, just for hypothetical reasons. The nice person would still be nice because they came to that conclusion for themselves anyway. They interpreted the good parts of their scripture to fit their worldview. And the bad person would still be bad because they would find some other way to try and justify their bigotry. Science is usually the one that's trotted out because of reproduction and stuff and P and the V, and that doesn't, think about unwanted pregnancies or contraception or, this crazy concept we call love. And so the solution, radical as it sounds, my solution anyway, is to just take away religion. It just serves no purpose. It's impossible to have fundamentalist Christians without Christianity. It's impossible to have fundamentalist Muslims without Islam. Fundamentalists would still exist, but they just wouldn't be able to cite these particular holy books as their reasons. However, taking away religion takes away people's freedoms to practice their own beliefs, and that can't be tolerated. It's a catch-22. Without religion, people would have less reasons to hate on each other and war with each other. such as, the obvious examples, the Crusades, the Inquisitions, jihads, whatever. And I mean, similar discussions happening Christianity and homosexuality also are happening in fundamental Islam versus feminism. Now look, there is no doubt in my mind that all the major world religions are equivalent to cults. Some act more cultish than others. Some branches of religion, in fact, like Mormonism and Jehovah's Witnesses, still a branch of a religion, but they lean more towards cult behavior because of their fundamentalist positions, whereas Anglican Protestantism is really more relaxed and liberal. I mean, they have women vicars now, but it doesn't really make all that much difference, because, I mean, I'm not saying that all people on Songs of Praise are, like, the same as jihadis. I'm saying that because of the religious indoctrination, through things like, threats of hell in the afterlife, or promises of amazing, wonderful heaven in the afterlife, that's the same thing as brainwashing. I mean, are we getting the picture yet? Worldviews like atheism and the scientific method are not religions because of something called apologetics, which is defined as a discipline of defending religious doctrines through argumentation and discourse, i.e., the mental gymnastics that religious scholars make to fit the current knowledge and accepted morality into their religious worldview based on their holy texts. But no one needs to make apologetics for atheism or science. And some people say that you can't prove a negative, and you actually can in some circumstances, but there's no conclusive evidence or proof for God. Therefore, the logical conclusion is that there is no God, and why believe in God? Also, there's no doubt that all the negatives far outweigh any of the positives from religion, and that we would be better off without. Secular governments function better than theocracies in terms of people's personal freedoms. So, with all that being said, do I hate religious people? No. I'm kind and courteous to all people before they give me a reason not to be, and belief in a religion that I don't agree with is not enough of a reason to make me do that. And I've had discussions and conversations with some, super nice people who just happen to be religious. But, if the conversation ever does come up, and someone were to start pushing me, then I'd have to either leave or push back. Metaphorically, in the realm of ideas speaking. And I would explain why I have such a negative view of organized religions. And I would lead to sources to, go into much more detail than I am here. Basically, those sources are, if you want to see them, you can find all the people that I'm subscribed to. Literally anyone who's not, like, LGBT or ingrained in politics. It's that third category of, why religion is illogical. And yeah, okay, there's some overlap between all three of those categories. So if you want more detail, then just, look them up. Anyway, this has been my latest attempt at poking the hornet's nest of controversy and see what swarms out. Until next time, bye-bye.